bet you're a winner. We're picking winners with the Cheezeman. Hopefully you did pretty well in the conference round. Back for Super Bowl action. We've got a great show. I got some great stuff for you today, all around the Super Bowl. It's gonna be pretty good. If you want to get to the picks, we're gonna do in-depth analytics, Super Bowl analytics, all that good stuff, and make our picks at the end of the video. So if you just want the picks, go check them out at the end. In the meanwhile, we've got our quiz time, NFL data analytics quiz section in here. We've got some information on our Survivor pool. It's wrapping up this weekend with the Super Bowl. We'll show you how those results are going to end up. About 2,000 players in that pool. Got information on Super Bowl square pools for you. But for now, let's get into this right away with some let's get rolling bets. Listen, we all like to analyze the game and make our picks of who's going to be the winner, is it going to go over, under, who our prop bets are going to be, blah, 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 right? All that stuff. But the fact is, two of the largest bets on Super Bowl weekend is the national anthem going to go over or under, and the coin toss. So right off the bat, that's what I'm going to do for you. Take a look at this, national anthem. It's 8, 6, and 2 to the over since we started having these bets, okay? Can you believe it? We've had 2 pushes? Say set a number like a minute 44, and it's actually coming exactly a minute 44. Unbelievable. On the national anthem, it starts with O. In other words, the first word of the song is when the timer starts, and it ends when they do Brave and end it, right? This year we got Chris Stapleton singing it, country guy. I like his stuff. I'm not a big country guy, but I do like Chris Stapleton. He's pretty good. But I don't know him in depth. But here's what I got for you. Country artists are 3 and 1 to the over. All right. Male artists are 1 and 2 to the under. The total currently is at 2 minutes and 5 seconds. That's a pretty long time. So just so you can see there, at 2 minutes plus, when the OU is set at 2 minutes plus, we're 3, 3, and 1. It says 1990. It's only gone over 2 minutes and 5 seconds 8 times. Now, I'll say this. In the 90s, most of the Super Bowl national anthem singers were doing it in, minute 40, well under 2 minutes, till Alicia Keys went for 2 minutes and 36 seconds. She blew it away. Eric Church sang it a few years ago. He's a country singer, but he sang it with a lady named Jasmine Sullivan, and it went for 2 minutes and 17 seconds. But one thing I'll tell you, Jasmine sang that final note. They sang it together, but she really sang it. And she held that note for like 10 seconds, right? That's how it got to 217. Luke Bryan did it, and he did it a cappella. He's another country guy. And he did the same thing at the end. He held that note for, it was like at least 8 seconds, if not 10 or 12 seconds. But his ended up at 204. Now, Stapleton, I don't know much about him, but when I watch him sing in his songs, he doesn't extend those notes like the soul, bluesy, hip-hop kind of artists do. You know what I mean? So you guys tell me in the comments section if I'm off base here, but my gut feeling says he doesn't extend those notes, and we're gonna see this thing finish under the 205. We're taking the under 205 on the national anthem. Now, 5 minutes later, we get coin toss. I know these bets are 50-50s, like roulette, red, black, but man, it spends the same way when you win. All right, here's your coin flip data. Heads has come up 28 times, tails come up 28 times. Remember in like 3rd grade or 4th grade or whatever it was, whatever grade it was, your teacher taught us probability, and she basically gave us the coin flip example, right? So we all know it, and it's crazy how in 56 Super Bowls gone 28-28. The team that wins the coin flip, however, is on an 8-game losing streak, okay? It was 24-24. Last 8 times, the team that won the coin flip, they've lost the game. So, does that streak keep going? I tend to like to ride streaks, or do you bet against it and figure it's going to stop one of these days? The AFC's won the coin toss 19 times, the NFC 37, the AFC's won the last 2, and of course they lost 2 games. In that current 8-game losing streak, 4 of 5 of those have been heads. In the last 10, we've had an even split of 5 heads and 5 tails. So we had a tail streak right before this. 4 of 5 have gone heads. The longest streak we've had is heads going 5 straight years. They've gone 4 or 5 here. I'm leaning tails this year. So we're going tails on the coin flip. Here's some other weird ones to get you into the game. Now, it's on Fox this year. When the Super Bowl network is Fox, the AFC's won 5, NFC 4. It's pretty even split. Kansas City is 1-0 on Fox. Philly is 0-1 on Fox. And the halftime music's a female, this year Triana, when it's mainly a female, right? AFC is 1-7, NFC's 1-5, Kansas City 1-0. Things are leaning KC's way if you believe in superstitious kind of bets. Now, here's one that's probably a little more relevant. Teams that wear white jerseys, they've won 8 of the last 10 Super Bowls. Okay? And they're 36-20 overall. So what happens is the NFL assigns a home team and away team each year, and it rotates from NFC to AFC. This year, home team is Philadelphia. They get to choose which jerseys they want to wear. They chose the dark green. They're going against the grain because the white jerseys have won 8 of 10, 36 of 56. But look down there. The 2 winners in the last 10 years with dark jerseys on, 2020, Kansas City. 2018, Philadelphia. Can you believe that? Can you believe like the karma, the stuff going on here to create that situation? Unbelievable. Anyways, who gives you better analysis on national anthems, jersey colors, and coin toss than right here? This year in Survivor, I had a big Survivor pool. You can see on the screen, we had 1,954 entries, almost 2,000. You can see we're down to 4 players. Here's my picks in the primary pool. Now you can see there in week 16, that's where I had a glitch. Oh my God, I finished 7th in the pool. However, I decided to play it out. I told all my Survivor video watchers, I picked Tennessee that week because I wanted to save San Francisco and then I could use them twice in the playoffs. Bad mistake. Had I chosen San Francisco, you can see how it would have played out, and I'd be right here right now. You could see the final 5 players. I would have Kansas City this week. 3 of us would have Kansas City. So if Kansas City won, I would have split it 3 ways. If Philly won, you could see we would split it 5 ways based on these players remaining. So all I had to do is take San Francisco week 16, and I would have won something in my Survivor pool. Unfortunately, I didn't. Now I got to find a way to win the money back. Oh my God. All right, and here's one way to do it. Let's look at Super Bowl squares, okay? Y'all are playing squares. We love this game because all our friends can participate. Even if you don't know anything about football, you go to a Super Bowl party, and if you're just interested in commercials, you can at least play squares, and it's fun, right? So here's all the information. I know this grid looks daunting, if you will, but you see that on the left, that's the first quarter, AFC, first quarter, NFC, and you can see it goes from 0 down through 9 on the numbers. On the far right is the total column. And so you can see there, 0 is obviously the number you want. It's come up 122 times in 56 Super Bowl squares games. And you can see the other top numbers, obviously 7, 3, 4, those are your biggest ones. 2, 5, 8, those stink, right? Now, one thing I like about one of my squares pools, if you get 2, 5, or 5, 2, he pays you a small prize right away. So if you get stuck with 2, 5, or 5, 2, not only do you have a chance to win at least, but he's already basically giving your money back, which is kind of cool. I like that idea. All right, here, take a look here. First quarter, here are the best numbers you can have for the first quarter in the Super Bowl. 0-0, obviously the best one. It's hit 10 times. NFC 3, AFC 0's hit 8 times. AFC 7, NFC 0, 5 times. And you can see those combinations around 7-7, 7-3. The last 3 Super Bowls have been 7-3 at the end of the first quarter. You can see the NFC led twice, the AFC led once. So, you know, first quarter, 0-3-7 are the numbers to get, man. Now, the other quarters, take a look here. Second quarter, top numbers over the years, NFC 3, AFC 0's hit 4 times, and AFC 7, NFC 0's hit 4 times. Third quarter, once again, it's 4-0. In the fourth quarter, it's 4-7. Now, you saw on the chart, we've had 8s, 9s, 6s. There's a lot of different numbers you get in the third and fourth quarter, so don't despair. You still have a shot. I'm just showing you what combos have been the biggest winners in your squares pools, all right? There we go, your Super Bowl square analytics. Let's get into a quick playoff review. Here we go, the wild card results. You saw these. We had some high-scoring games. We averaged 55 points game in the wild card round. Normally, the wild card round is an under round. But you can see that we started off with 5 straight overs, and then the stuff hit the fan, right? Dallas's kicker misses 4 extra points, and we get an under by a half a point, and that starts the streak. Division round, 4 straight unders. We now have 5 unders in a row. Conference round, 2 more unders. We now have 7 unders in a row going into the Super Bowl. How the favorites and dogs have done, how everybody's done, blah, 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 blah. But basically, we've got 7 straight unders in playoff games going into the Super Bowl. And oh, by the way, the last 4 Super Bowls, unders. So we got a streak there, too. NFL data analytics quiz time. Some of you guys like this. If you don't, skip ahead. But basically what we do is you ask some questions. Go ahead and figure out your answers. And then this helps us determine how we want to place some wagers based on the data here. So here we go. First question, top offense versus top defense question. Since 1990, we've had 3 Super Bowl occasions where the number 1 pass offense faced the number 1 pass defense. Which side has the better record? Is it A, the offense, or B, the defense? Ready? Correct answer, the defense. Take a look here. Here's the 3 games that we had the situation. You can see 2016 is my favorite Super Bowl ever because I won a huge survivor pool that year. New England came back and beat Atlanta. New England had the number 1 defense that year. Seattle crushed Denver, and the Giants beat that Buffalo machine. That offense was phenomenal. Jim Kelly, Andre Reed, Thurman Thomas. They were cranking out 30-some points a game. Giants held them down. The defense rests. They're 3-0. This year, what do we have? Philadelphia, number 1 pass defense against Kansas City, number 1 pass offense. Will it hold true again? All right, question 2 in the last 10 Super Bowls. Favorites have won 5 and lost 5. How many games have the favorites had the more passing yards? How many games have the favorites had more passing yards? Is it 3, 5, 6, 8, or 10? Correct answer, 10. All 10. Favorites have had more passing yards in every Super Bowl of the last 10. This year, Philadelphia is currently the favorite. Kansas City has the number 1 passing offense. Something's got to give, guys. All right, next question. The last 10 Super Bowls, how many games has the team which won straight up also covered the spread? Is it 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9? Lock in your choice. Correct answer is 9. 9 out of 10 times. Basically, you just pick a side, you win the game, you win against the spread as well. The only time the point spread has mattered was last year's game. The Rams were given 4.5 to Cincy, and Cincy stayed within 3 points, so they covered the spread. This year, you've got Philly, a 1.5 point favorite currently, which means the only way the spread's coming into effect is if Philly wins by 1. All right, here's another question. In the last 10 years, what's the largest Super Bowl point spread we've had? What's the largest point spread we've had in the last 10 years? Is it A, 4.5, B, 6, C, 7, D, 8.5, or E, 10? What do you think? The correct answer is 4.5. That's the big reason why. We've only had spreads all within 4.5 points, so we expect these tight games very closely matched. But take a look here. We've only had 3 of the 10 games decided by less than 6 points. So the point spreads have all been within 4.5, 0 to 4.5. But you can see only 3 games finished between 0 and 5 points. 4 games finished between 6 and 13 points. And then we had 3 blowouts of 14 points and more. By the way, in all 3 of those games, the dog won. So not only did they cover, but they won the game outright, and they were in blowout victories. Kind of crazy. All right, next question. What has been the average OU total over the last 10 years? Average OU total in Super Bowl games over the last 10 years at A, 44, B, 45, 47, 48, or 50? The correct answer is E, 50.45. That's part of the reason why we've had some unders. In the last 10 Super Bowls, the actual game score has fallen within 7 points of the OU 5 times, half the time, right? So we set an OU total. Let's say it's 50. Game score finishes at 45. That's within 7 points. That's happened half the time. You can see the other half, basically 4 out of the others have 15 points and higher. So it's either fairly tight against the OU or it's not even close. And you can see the biggest gap was that bizarre game we had the Rams in New England score only 16 points. And they had an OU of 55.5. There's a 39-point gap there. That game stunk. I won't say a harsher word, although I should. All us DFS players, all of us overbetters, all got annihilated that day. It was awful. All right, I think it's the final question here, okay? Last 10 Super Bowls, we've had 2 games that were tied at halftime in the last 10. But of the other 8 games, how many times has the team leading at halftime gone on to win the game straight up? Is it 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7? Correct answer, 7. 7 of the 8. So take a look here. Last 10 Super Bowls, team leading at halftime, 7 of the 8 have won the game. So if you're in play betting and you see who's winning at halftime, odds are, based on our trends, we should see them win the game. You see, dogs have gone 5-1, favorites have gone 2-0. In the 2 games that were ties at halftime, both of the favorites won the game, and one of those was Kansas City when they played San Francisco. Philly currently minus 1.5, 50.5. If you like the over, jump on it now, because typically what happens for the Super Bowl is the closer we get to the game, the over starts to go up. It's natural. Most fans like scoring. They want to bet the over, and your average fan does. So That's what's going to happen, so get in on the over early. Week 22 in play, Philadelphia and Kansas City. You can see there all their statistics, and basically they're all in blue because they're all in the top 10 in everything, pretty much. Philly is 16-1 when Jalen Hurts starts. Their GM easily deserves GM of the year. They're the most stacked team, offense and defense, most talent. They're deep with reserves. This is absolutely the best put together team in the league. Kansas City's won 7 of 8, 12 of 13. Their only loss was to Cincinnati, who, they avenged that loss in the conference championship game. While Philly may have a more stacked team on both sides of the ball in all positions, Kansas City certainly has more experience in the Super Bowl, and you've got a head coach who's been in the Super Bowl multiple times and a quarterback multiple times. Both these score offenses are number 1 in the league, tied. They average 28.7 points a game. Philly is number 3 in turnover differential. That's always critical in playoff games and Super Bowl games. Kansas City is number 22, so that's kind of interesting. And by the way, Philly is also among the top teams in interceptions. And then when you look at sacks, Philly is number 1 in the league. Kansas City's number 2. But Philly's had 70 sacks. They won this stat by a mile all year long. They put a ton of pressure on the quarterback. So one of the things we like here, now, both teams, Philly has arguably the number 1 offensive line in football. It's not even arguable. They do have the number 1 offensive line in football. Kansas City has a top 5 offensive line. But these defenses are going to get after the quarterback and create some havoc. I think we're going to see Mahomes take off and run the ball. We love Mahomes rushing yards in playoff games and Super Bowl. I know he has that ankle, but this is a tough guy. He's one of the mentally toughest guys we've ever had. That's why he's one of the best quarterbacks we've ever had. I think Patrick Mahomes will absolutely fight through the pain. He'll have a few weeks off to get it better. He'll take off and run sometimes. I think he's going to go over his 20 yards rushing. It would not shock me if Hurts gets over his rushing total either. The only thing is, his is pretty high, but Hurts typically runs between 10 and 12 times a game, so he has a better opportunity. Obviously, he's probably the better running quarterback. In terms of giving up sacks, Kansas City, Mahomes is great at not getting sacked. He's a magician. He finds ways to get rid of the ball, right? The only problem with that is he's so talented and he finds these ways, but he does put that ball at risk at times, and that's why we're going to take Patrick Mahomes over a half an interception. We think he'll throw 1. Now, he hasn't thrown 1 in the playoffs. He hasn't thrown 1 in 3 or 4 games, but he does have, I think, 12 on the year or so. Hurts, I think, has the least amount of interceptions for a starting quarterback, or one of the tops. Might be Danny Jones. Anyways, Philly is 11th worst at giving up sacks, but here I want you to understand, Hurts holds on to the ball longer, and he tends to take off and run. Now, if he doesn't get back to line of scrimmage, it counts as a sack versus negative rushing yards. So that's why they have a little more sacks on that side, all right? Let's get into points here. These two teams, like I said, are the 2 highest scoring teams in the league. Kansas City has number 1 offense, number 1 pass offense, going against that Philly number 1 pass defense. When we look at points scored, I think KC's total currently is 24.5. Go jump on that if you want. But so I looked at how many times these teams scored 25 points or more this year. Kansas City is 13-6, 13 out of 19 times. Philly has done it 12 out of 19 times. So it bodes well. Both these teams are going to put up points. Even as good as the defenses are, I just can't imagine either of these teams stopping each other. Neither team has played an offense like they're going to see this weekend. Also, in terms of giving up points, I looked up when they've given up 20 or more points, and you can see there Kansas City has given up 20 or more 14 times. Philly's given up 8, so about half their games, 8 out of 19. Kansas City, 14 out of 19. That's a lot, so you're kind of assuming Philly's going to get at least 20. I'm liking the over this year. I think these under streaks stop. We need a good freaking high-scoring game for the NFL, for DFS, for everything, for the Millionaire Maker, for all that stuff, because we've had some duds the last few weeks. Looking at the schedules they play, because that's always critical, you can see Philly's schedule is a little bit tougher, not much. Let's take a look at their losses now. Philly lost 3 games. The one against Washington was with Hurts. That was their bad loss. Kansas City had a bad loss to Indy, so they're equal there. The other 2 losses for Philly, Dallas, New Orleans, Hurts didn't play. Kind of throw them out. Kansas City lost to Cincinnati and Buffalo. Let's take a look at their schedules here and how they did against winning teams. We don't care about the losing teams. If you're a Super Bowl caliber team, you should win all the losing teams. So we don't care. Those don't matter. But you'll see here, the best teams on either schedule are Cincinnati and Buffalo, who Kansas City played. They lost both games only by a field goal, and then they beat Cincinnati later on. If we take a look at Philly, right? They beat Detroit great offense, but come on, they got to beat Detroit this year. Next year, maybe it'll be tougher. They beat Minnesota. Okay, another good offense. They really slammed them. They beat Dallas once, lost to Dallas once, but in both those games, Dallas didn't have Dak Prescott the first game, throw it out. Philly didn't have Hurts the next game, throw it out. They beat the Giants 3 times. Now, vastly improved team, but come on, that's not a Super Bowl contender this year. It's not all that impressive. Kansas City right now, they played the Chargers twice. The Chargers at least have a potent offense. They were a pretty good football team, made the playoffs. You can see there they played San Francisco. Now, the San Francisco game, though, you got to kind of throw it out. San Francisco was out 5 of their defensive starters. If you play a game on defense and you're missing half your starting defense against the number 1 offense in football, you don't have a chance. Much like last week, when once Brock Purdy went out, San Francisco didn't have a chance. So I kind of throw both of those out. So really the toughest games on the schedules are when Kansas City played Cincinnati and Buffalo. Those are Super Bowl caliber squads. The rest, we just don't know. Now they both have a common opponent in Jacksonville, and they both crushed them. Kansas City whooped up on them pretty good. They outgained them by 100 yards and this kind of stuff. Philly annihilated them. I know the score says 29-21, but here's that in that game. Jacksonville scored a touchdown, and then they got a pick 6 early in the game. It was 14-0 Jacksonville early. From that point on, Philly outgained them 400-10 in yards. Out time of possession double, like 40 to 20 minutes. Jacksonville got a cheap touchdown in the fourth quarter to make it closer, but Philly really annihilated them. So, when you look at the schedule, though, here's my concern with Philly. They didn't have those Super Bowl caliber games like KC did. KC has Buffalo, Cincy, and Cincy, 3 of them. And then they had the Chargers, who might be better than anything we see on Philly's schedule, all considering San Francisco and Dallas' situations in those games. That one makes me a little leery. Let's take a look at our Super Bowl metrics. Here you can see the last 10 Super Bowls, and you'll notice right out of the bat, 4 straight unders. Looking a little closer at our OU analytics for Super Bowls, 4 straight unders. Kansas City's played in 2 of them. And that's kind of scary. The OU is currently at 50.5. Here's how many games each team played over 50 points this year. Philly had 5 of those. Kansas City had 10 of them. 10's a lot. Actual Super Bowl actual scores that have hit 50, we've had 6 of the last 10 do it, and 10 of the last 20. So about half the time, we're getting to 50 points in Super Bowls. And with these 2 offenses, my expectation, we're getting there again. Here's your other analytics for the Super Bowl, and you can see favorites straight up, 67%. Favorites against spread, 53%. Everything else is pretty much 50-50. But when you look over, most of those wins for the favorites came early in Super Bowl history back in the 1900s. Back in the pioneer days, right? When the Pilgrims were still here. In the last 10 Super Bowls, you can see everything's 50-50. Against the spread, straight up, OU, AFC, NFC, etc. So honestly, guys, the Super Bowl is a 50-50 game. It comes down to who you like and getting on the right side. And then listen to us, because we're going to get it right this year. Here's something important to look at for trends. We've talked about this in divisional conference games, the playoffs. The team with more rushing yards wins 75% of the time. But when you look at the Super Bowl, all those stats are 50-50. More rushing yards, passing yards, total yards, less turnovers, shockingly. And the 2 weird stats, time of possession and less penalties, look down below there in the second box, they're 9-1. Team who leads in time possession, 9-1. Team with less penalties, 9-1. Now, that conference game left a horrible taste in our mouth. Normally, we have about 11 penalties a game called. We had 6 in the fourth quarter, 5 against Cincy. We had the ref doesn't blow the damn whistle. I don't know what he was doing. So we have a do-over. What is this, 4th grade in the playground when the hula hoop rolls in the way of the game? And we got to have a do-over? This is the NFL. Anyways, you can see there, Carl Sheffers, he calls a lot more penalties than most. And, by the way, Kansas City's 6th best at penalties, Philly's 10th best. But you can see there in Carl Sheffers' ref games, Kansas City's 16-7. They definitely have an advantage here. Philly's only 6-8. I hate bringing refs into the game, but it's a fact, guys. It's data. One other thing, time of possession. Most analysts and stat guys like me, we look at time of possession and throw it away. Because most of the time, it's the team leading in the fourth quarter, grinding out the clock that wins time of possession, all right? And that's how Philly's played all year. They score early, get the lead, and they grind you in the second half, and they win time of possession. Speaking of that, let's take a look at scoring by quarter here. The second quarter is when we have the most points in Super Bowl games over the last 10 years. Now, over the 56-year history, it's the fourth quarter. But over the last 10 years, it's been the second quarter. And oh, by the way, these 2 teams rank 1st and 3rd in second quarter scoring. Philly's number one all year long, 12.4. And we've been betting Philly first quarter and first half. We won a lot of those bets this year. Kansas City, second quarter, 10.8 points per game. Look at the first half scoring. These are the top 2 teams in the league. So you can see Philly leads in first half scoring by a mile, 18.2 points a game. KC is second at 15.5 points a game. And let's take a look at something else here. When we have 14 points or more scored in the second quarter of the Super Bowl, the over is 21-6 for the game. 21-6. In the last 10 years, it's happened 6 times. The over's gone 5-1. These are the 2 really best teams scoring in the second quarter and in the first half. I expect us to get 14 at least in the second quarter, which means the game should go to an over, right? That's just what the trends say. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but that's how I'm going to look at it. My expectation for this game, Mahomes has more experience. He's been in the Super Bowl. This is his 3rd one. He'll probably have calmer nerves in the first quarter. Hurts is going to be wired. His adrenaline's going to be pumping. Kansas City probably gets off to a little better start than Philly does. But in the second quarter, when things calm down, that's Philly's quarter. They win the half, and we're going to take that play. Speaking of picks, let's get into it. Here were our conference picks from last week. Last week we were 4-2 in top 5, bonus 2-4. Kind of a week. It was really a bummer. It was just a bummer because 2 things occurred that ruined the weekend. One, Brock Purdy gets hurt. 5 minutes into the game, and San Francisco is done, which you can see down below in our bonus picks. We took Purdy over a half a pick. Why? There have been 6 rookie quarterbacks in conference championship games. All 6 threw at least 1 interception. Most of them threw multiple picks. That should have been an easy bet. But when you're on the sidelines, the only kind of picks you can throw come from your nose. So we didn't win that bet. And then once Purdy goes out, Philly gets a lead. They just ran the ball the whole game. So our A.J. Brown over bet loses as well. Hurts only threw for 125 yards for the game. He didn't have to throw, so that bet was gone too. So that killed us. And the second game, when the ref make those horrible calls, it ruined the over, which kind of ruined everything for us. You can see up top there, we went 4-2. Took Philly first quarter, first half, Philly to win, Philly under. All those came in. The Cincinnati bets, we lose. Let's get into what we're doing this week. I think Philadelphia's been the best team all year. The only thing that scares me is their schedule. They did not really face a Super Bowl contender at full strength all year. That kind of worries me. But Jalen Hurts, coach's son, one of the most mentally tough quarterbacks in the game. Love him. Love this team. Their receivers are great. They've got the best offensive line in the league. They got the best defensive line in the league. To me, the Lions win games. They have the best on both sides of the ball. Kansas City's are very good, but I like Philly to win the game. I'm taking Philadelphia. I'm taking them first half. Like I said, I'm not going to take them first quarter. Take them first half. Take them for the game. We're going to go with that second quarter is the highest scoring quarter. It's currently plus 200, so you can win some action there. Fourth quarter is currently plus 180. So if you think this game's going to turn into a back and forth shootout at the end, you might go fourth quarter, okay? I'm going to take the over. I think these under streaks have to come to an end at some point. We need it just for our sanity, man. 7 unders in a row in the playoff game stinks, especially for DFS. It's time we get a good game with some good action. We're going to take the first half over. As you saw, both these teams, top 2 teams, offensively and scoring, 18 and 15. They're 33 to 34 points a game in the first half. Take the first half over, 24 and a half. Bonus picks, we love Mahomes' rushing total, even with the bad ankle. The only thing that kills us there is if he takes off or gets hit and it hurts that ankle again, and then he doesn't want to run, right? We're taking the Mahomes picks over a half. We explained why earlier. National anthem, we're going under 205. We're taking the coin toss to be tails. We're going to take Jalen Hurts on an anytime TD at 13 rushing touchdowns in the regular season, 2 more in the playoffs so far. The guy just tends to run one in every freaking game. We're going to take Devontae Smith over 61.5 receiving yards. I might go A.J. Brown too. I think Philly is going to have to throw the ball a bit because they're not going to keep Kansas City out of the end zone. There's going to be more than what they usually do, so I like their overs on their receivers. I also like Mahomes and Hurts over 3.5 passing touchdowns. That's a combined wager there. I'm also looking at some rushing overs, especially on the guys who are lower. So I do think these teams will be able to run the ball on each other, so I just got to figure out which guys I like the best. You need to do that too, I think. But anyways, guys, those are our picks for the Super Bowl. Hopefully these things help you out. You got a lot of good information here. Who else gives you great info on the national anthem and coin toss? Anyways, thanks to CooperGroove.com, our sponsor. Go check out their golf grips. They're pretty cool. Hey guys, we really appreciate you being here. Please like us and subscribe and come back and see us next year when we do our Survivor stuff. Thanks for being with us. This has been Super Bowl Spectacular Style. You bet you're a winner.